Wendy's is one of the most iconic burger chains in America. It's been around for generations. Like every restaurant company, though, Wendy's is pushing into the future, and they've designed their restaurant of the future, which is full of touches that really mark what customers of the future want. That includes order kiosks, it includes mobile order pickup stations, it even has AI in the drive-thru.
You can start placing your order when ready.
Now look, I'm a native Ohioan, so I grew up eating Wendy's, and anytime I come into Wendy's, I've got to order some food. I'm gonna order food, take a seat, and enjoy my meal, and once again, have a great Wendy's experience. It's not an easy job being the CEO of a company with more than 7,000 locations globally. That's exactly what Kirk Tanner is doing as the CEO of Wendy. Kirk took the job back in February of 2024, and it's actually his first restaurant executive position. But he's been in food and beverage for over 30 years. And he's learned a few things along the way about how to be a good leader. He has a lot of mentors in his life who help him along the way, and he's eager to pass down that leadership style as well. I wanted to know what makes Kirk tick. What's his day-to-day like? What's his routine? What makes him able to be the great CEO that he is? So I sat down with him to really understand his signature style. Kirk Tanner, CEO of Wendy's. Thank you for joining the Signature Series. Really appreciate your time.
Well, thanks, Sam. Good to be here.
Yeah, so Kirk, you're celebrating about 1 year now at Wendy's as CEO. We're going to get into your career, your time at Wendy's, but I want to start at the beginning. I want to get into your whole career and what has shaped you as a leader. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
So let's start with your childhood.
Okay.
Let's go all the way back there.
Wow.
Tell me about your childhood. What was that like? What would your
way back?
We're going way back.
Okay. I grew up in Colorado and Utah.
Okay.
And, really lived in the mountains, a lot of time outdoors. I have an older brother and two younger sisters. And I tell you, Wendy's was my grandma's favorite restaurant. That's one of these early memories. Actually, when I first got this job, my brother sends me everybody else is sending me texts. Hey, congratulations, that's awesome. I love Wendy's. My brother goes, Grandma would be so proud. Because she used to take us there. That was her favorite spot. So it was, coincidental. But I grew up in Utah, mostly in my childhood.
And so when you were a child, did you know what you wanted to be when you grow up? What were your aspirations for life?
Yeah, my dad was in business. I was fascinated with business, but separately, I loved the outdoors. At one point in my early life, I wanted to be a park ranger for a national park.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, when you grow up out west, that's kind of natural, right?
Yeah.
You're in such beautiful nature.
Yeah, going to places like Yellowstone and Yosemite and Arches National Park, all those things influenced me. I loved the outdoors, and I loved being around people in the outdoors.
So I imagine you're an avid skier, you're a big outdoorsman, still probably to this day?
Yeah, skiing, hiking, mountain biking, that's really the family activity when you think about the Tanners. That's what we like to do.
Got it. All right, tell me about then your education. What was your education like from a child up through high school and then college?
Yeah, early days, I grew up in Colorado, and, part of living in Evergreen, Colorado was spent a lot of time outdoors. There was a ski program as part of the school, those kind of things. And then moving to Utah, same things, really outdoor, a lot of school activities that were embracing, the environment. But, that had a really good childhood growing up, had, lots of access, lots of good influences in my life. It was, really a positive experience growing up in Utah.
Okay, University of Utah?
Yes,
is that right?
University of Utah.
Was it always the plan? You always wanted to go there?
Yeah, I think I'm a fifth generation Ute.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yeah, okay. So it was a family, dating back to my great-great-grandpa. That was a big part of what the plan was. I was always going to the University of Utah.
What did you study? Did you know?
Learning.
Okay, and did you know going in what you wanted to do right off the bat?
Well, I knew I wanted to have a foundation for business when I got to college, and I thought that would be really important to understand how business runs, how to deliver great results in business, and that's really where I was focused.
Okay. Where did this knack for business come from? You come from business people in your family, or did you just know you had a knack for business?
Yeah, no, I watched my dad. He was in the business world. He ran a business, and that influenced me. Yeah, I thought, being able to lead and build strategy and grow a business, that was really influential on me.
Okay. Then let's get into your college years.
Okay.
Did you stick with the accounting degree and you had an idea of what you wanted to do with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I stuck with the accounting degree. Okay. Coincidentally, I didn't get a job in accounting. I interviewed with all these companies, accounting companies, and had an opportunity to really work for Frito-Lay instead. Okay. So, which was an interesting thing. I interviewed right on the University of Utah campus. And it was a very different experience. But what I loved about it, it was really hands-on. It was really a part of the business that was out in the field, in stores, with people. And that really, really transformed my thinking. So I didn't end up going into accounting. I ended up going into consumer packaged goods. And I loved it. It was a fantastic way to start my career.
I imagine that accounting education and experience, though, has served you well through your whole career.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's foundational in a business environment.
Sure. To take a step back then, at what point did you feel like you maybe recognized some leadership characteristics in yourself? Did you recognize that at an early age?
Well, probably in high school. I liked just being a part of things, and I was in student government and sports teams and things like that. And I thought, if you can get involved with people and help people out, I thought that, I started to see that in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you think that there was a possibility then you could apply that in your career? Did you want to aspire to an executive position?
Probably. I started thinking about that early on in my career. I was a district manager for Frito-Lay, and I had about 15 people that worked for me, and they needed me. Mm-hmm. I thought, how do I help each of these route sales leaders grow their business? It was really personal. In that environment, the route sales person, they owned their routes, right? They had a level of ownership, and as a young leader, my job was to remove obstacles and help them grow their business. And that's when I first started to think, wow, I get a charge. I get something from this when I see others grow. And that really started how I would think about my career.
That's such an interesting thing, too, because when you're in your 20s, you're a kid still in many regards. That's how I felt anyway. But to be put in this leadership position at such a young age, as you say, I imagine that's had lasting effects on you. What do you feel like in that period of your life, in your 20s, when you have this leadership opportunity?
Yeah.
What did you learn that has been so foundational to your experience leading up to today?
Yeah, well, one, building credibility. When I started with Frito-Lay, I was 24 years old, and basically everybody on my team was in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And so building credibility, being able to, just walk the talk and being able to, lead by example, rolling your sleeves up, building credibility, you have to win people over. And your actions usually are the driver of winning people over. And that's really what I learned at an early age.
Sure. Okay, so walk me through some of that early stage of your career. Frito-Lay, was there a career ladder you start to climb? What did that early stage at Frito-Lay look like?
Yeah, so about every 2 years, I got a different job that required me to move my family. So I started in Salt Lake, moved to Boise, then to Phoenix, then to Tucson, then to Northwest Arkansas, then to back to Arizona. So lots of moves, California. Every job was a new opportunity, but really I never asked for a job. I just focused on the job that I had, and then I got another opportunity. Someone came and looked and says, wow, would you like another opportunity? And each of those opportunities grew my thinking, grew my capabilities, and grew my leadership.
Yep. Now that you're on the other side, you're as a CEO of a company and you look at young leaders, I imagine there's something you learned from that, because on one hand, I'm sure a little bit of luck comes into it, right time, right place.
For sure.
But I'm sure you also learned something in that period of time of doing what the company asked you to do, being a good leader to your team and being a good employee, open those doors. So I guess what did you learn from that perspective that you might impart on younger leaders today?
Yeah, I think the focus on your current job, if you do a great job, a lot of young leaders are saying, hey, how do I build this? How do I build my career? What's my next job? What's the job after that? If you focus on the next job, you won't focus on the current job. And if you focus on the current job and do an amazing job, people will notice. And your career will be like a vacuum. You'll get pulled along, maybe even sooner than you want, maybe even sooner than you're ready. But those opportunities come by focusing on your current job and doing a great job and making the largest impact that you can.
We spend so time now in the restaurant industry, so much time talking about the importance of pipelines, talent pipelines.
Yes.
This makes me think of that, which is recognizing young leaders, making sure they understand the path they have before them. Was that done for you? Do you feel like you were a part of a pipeline and that you had mentors and people who were looking out for you and keeping you invested and developing you along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky to have mentors in my career that looked after me, and they gave me the tough feedback. I had one mentor, Al Carey, who was at Frito-Lay at the time. He was a senior executive at the time. I was a young leader, and he just wanted to mentor me, and we connected, and he looked out for me. But he was also hard on me. He helped me do things like learn how to storytell, learn how to present, learn how to stand in front of a crowd. Those things, you have to learn those things unless you're, a natural public speaker and all those things. Al was that for me, and I had him through my entire career. He was actually my boss multiple times through my career. And he just had a passion for it. And I learned a lot from him. I learned that servant leadership really comes from, and I kind of had this belief that that's how it should be done. Yep. You should, understand what your people need, remove obstacles. But he really helped me kind of frame that thinking about, God, how can you really move the needle and get results through people by really giving back and focusing on those around you and getting results through people. He really shared that with me. I still talk to him today.
Oh, that's great. Great to have a mentor in your life along the way.
Yeah.
And I imagine then, too, that has shaped your leadership style, which I want to talk about that. How would you describe your leadership style?
Yeah, I aspire, I'm still working on it.
It's a lifelong progress.
So you're still finding things every day that you think, wow, could I be a better listener? Can I impact others around me? Can I pull people up in the organization, that succession pipeline that we talk about? All those things, I think, really shape who you are. But I think the servant leadership model is the most powerful. I'll just keep going back to that. It is really an upside down triangle, okay, if you think about that. The CEO is on the bottom, and the front line, those, in our case here at Wendy's, it would be those that are in the restaurant. How do we help those succeed? How do we help general managers in our restaurants be the very best that they can be? And how is everyone in service of those folks? So the organization, every layer is in service of the front line. And I learned that from Al, I learned that through experience, and I learned that's how to drive performance in a business.
When you are the CEO of a company the size of Wendy's, though, that top line of that inverted pyramid is hundreds of thousands of people. How can you do that for so many people? Does it start with your leadership style and trickle down? What is your approach to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you build it into the culture. I think certainly we have to model that leadership, and your actions always speak louder than your words. So you do that. I would just, bring in one thing that we created, and we'll maybe talk about this a little later, is the Wendy's Promise. Mm-hmm. In the Wendy's Promise, we talk about 4 behaviors. The first behavior is put the customer first. The second behavior is make every restaurant the star. And what does that signal to the organization? It signals to the organization that that's where the magic happens. How do we support those folks that are leading the store and interfacing with our customer? Our headquarters is called the Restaurant Support Center, not headquarters. So it's that idea of our culture supporting the front line, supporting the restaurant, and supporting where the magic happens with our customers.
Sure. So again, so many people under you, and you've had a year on the job at Wendy's. How do you think folks at Wendy's would describe you as a leader?
Probably a level of intensity. I think team builder, like understanding that results come from a team, not an individual. And those dynamics are important. And you need to have diversity on your team, diversity of experience and thought and different points of view so that you have the right arguments, I'd say arguments, so that you can get to the best way. I love to have a team that debates both sides, right? So you have an opportunity, part of the team debates one side, the other part of the team debates another, and you come up with a third way. I think that's great team dynamics, and that's something that we live by at Wendy's.
You mentioned your mentor, who you still talk to today. I imagine you serve as a mentor to some folks too.
Yes.
How do you impart your leadership lessons to them? What does that look like?
Yeah, through conversation, through understanding and listening for the most part, understanding what every leader is going through at a particular time, and just asking the right questions, understanding and being empathetic for what the situation is. There's always choices to make. We're faced with choices every day, multiple times a day. Thinking about those choices in scenarios and trying to pick the best scenario for the best outcome.
Sure. Okay, so taking a step back then, too, looking at your career as a whole, Frito-Lay, and then you have this great experience before you come to be CEO at Wendy's. Tell me about some of the experiences along the way that led you to Wendy's that were especially formative for you.
Yeah, I think I just grew to love the consumer experience. Consumer packaged goods taught me really, how do I impact the consumer? How can we create innovation? How can we message? How can we get consumers to choose our products through multiple tools? The right innovation, the right experience. Just trying to exceed a consumer's expectation is a challenge.
Right.
Being able to do that is so rewarding. And those moments that you find success, that just fuels the fire.
Mm-hmm. Well, and for you too, being a part of the food and beverage space, which touches every single human, for the most part, every single American, for sure. What must that feel like? To have such influence over literally hundreds of millions of people. Clearly, that makes you excited. That brings you joy. Yeah. But what does it feel like to have such influence over the food and beverage space as you have in your career?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's inspiring. When you get it right, it makes you feel great. When you get it wrong, it's very frustrating. You feel it because it's really personal. I think just delivering those moments, those small moments in consumers' lives that just make it just a little bit better. It's, you got to keep it in perspective, but if you can make it a little bit better, I think that's really rewarding.
Sure. If you were to look at either one position or one initiative, one campaign, something you're most proud of from your career, when you look at the 30 plus years you've been in the food and beverage space, is there anything that stands out as something you're most proud of? Yeah,
I think building brands has been very rewarding. And I got to do that later in my career. I think that, when you see an innovation come to life that fits a need, that takes off, I think it's very rewarding. And, I got to experience that many times. I also had a really unique experience when I went to the UK. I really learned some new things about myself, how to think strategically. We, as Americans, we're hard-charging. We're ambitious. We are competitive. When I went to the UK, I learned how to think deeper, more strategic and thought leadership. We had an environment where we would have debates, and if you were in the room, you had a voice, and you could, pose an argument. You could, kind of battle for your ideas, and that taught me new behaviors, new ways of thinking. So I had multiple experiences, one through leadership, one through creating innovation.
Sure. Listening to each other. Imagine if we could do that as Americans, maybe listen to each other once in a while.
No, I think we do that. But, I think that's part of leadership is making sure everyone in the room has a voice and their opinion matters, and bringing that to life, I think gives people value, and it makes the team better.
So conversely, what was one of the most challenging moments of your career? How did you overcome it?
Yeah, early in my career, I was given a turnaround assignment. So I had a lot of success being able to grow the business, build relationships with customers, and it was going really well. And then I had the opportunity as like, oh, this young leader's got a lot of potential. Let's give him a turnaround assignment. That turnaround assignment was very hard. It challenged me because I had never faced those things. I had never faced those challenges, and it humbled me. It really, for a few years, it was, really impactful. I had to work twice as hard to get less results. And, the patience that it took to turn the business around really pushed me and challenged me.
Sure. So again, food and beverage industry, such a unique industry, such a unique influence that you can have in it. And now, for the 30 years prior to Wendy's, you did that in the beverage space, especially food and beverage. But your 1 year at Wendy's is your year in restaurants specifically. Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm curious how restaurants especially have shaped you as a leader.
Yeah. Can I go back to when I was 15?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
That was my first job.
Okay.
Was at Sardini's, in Salt Lake City. It was a restaurant, an Italian sandwich restaurant. That was my first experience. And I worked there through high school. And that helped. That's kind of shaped me, and really that experience interacting with customers and delivering great quality, because it was a great quality restaurant, and being able to grow as a leader in there, because you ended up getting different responsibilities. Even as a young person, you got different responsibilities, from making sandwiches to closing the restaurant to leading other people in the restaurant. So that was my early experience.
Sure.
And then I got the experience when I was at PepsiCo to run the global food service business. That also showed me, wow, okay, there's many things that we can do to help our customers across the globe win with their customers. And that was really important. So that also brought me closer. But at Wendy's, we have a great business that engages with customers every day. And that's the challenge. When I talked about the Wendy's promise, it was really put the customer first. Some of that influenced was, back when I was 15 years old, a lot of the influence of put the customer first was from our leaders inside of Wendy's. Trying to prioritize how we're going to grow the business, and putting the customer first was a big part of that.
When you talk to a lot of restaurant executives like yourself, so many of them started as a dishwasher, a busboy, something along these lines. I think the industry is really struggling to show people that this is a career. This is not just let's get a job as a teenager or pay your way through college. Is that on your mind as CEO of Wendy's, to try to help people understand what this can be as a career?
Yeah, I think it's so important to attract the best talent for the industry and for Wendy's. And to do that, you can do so many different responsibilities in a business like Wendy's to grow your career. You can move from marketing to store operations to restaurant leadership. There's so many opportunities to shape your thinking and shape you as a leader. And there's no better place than the restaurant industry.
Sure.
There's no better place than Wendy's.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that.
Did I plug that?
You can plug it.
Okay.
Hey, shameless plug.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so tell me, is there anything in your career you wish you had changed? Or if you did it all over again, would you have done it differently?
Yeah, I think it goes back to those leadership moments. If you're really passionate about being a great leader, you always want to improve. You want to be a better listener. You want to be maybe more patient with a turnaround. You want to think about, how do I engage the customer better? But it's all about understanding and insight. So I think, where I got it wrong was rushing a decision, maybe not having all the right insights, maybe, those things that you look back and go, oh, we could have done that better. Could have done that better. That's how I think about it.
For somebody who has had 30 years in the food and beverage space as yourself, anybody who spends, gets to a later part of their career and they're looking back, of course, hindsight's 20/20, right? And you can see what you might have done differently. And to that end, we have that opportunity to share with younger professionals how we might have done it differently, how they could do it differently. What is your advice to young professionals, either in restaurants or young professionals just who are executives of companies who have opportunities as you did?
Yeah.
What would your advice be to them?
I'd say be a student of the game. Have a real heightened curiosity about how to be successful through the lens of what matters most. In our case at Wendy's, it's the customer. So how do you understand what customers need, want, how they're feeling? Really go deep on the insights, because I think deep insights allow us to think about the opportunities and choices that we can make. So if you base your decisions on insights, squarely where the customer is, you'll make better decisions. But it takes a high level of focus in studying the business and a high level of curiosity.
Sure. I know you've got a lot of years left in you as a leader, but when you think about someday you retire, you're sitting on the beach or in the mountains at the ski lodge, maybe, you're reflecting back on your career. Yeah. What do you hope your legacy will have been?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's a tough one to ask. I think that bringing people along with you, helping people build careers, being a mentor to others, I think is what I'm most passionate about. Now, I've grown into that. If you asked me early in my career, it was about growing my career. It was more about, how I could provide for my family and things like that, focused on me. Today, it's more focused on others, being selfless, being a selfless leader, and bringing others with you, giving people the opportunity to grow their career and take on new challenges is how I would like to be known.
Yeah. You mentioned your family, and I'm curious, this is something I deal with a lot. I'm sure a lot of people are dealing with work-life balance, figuring out, how you can be mentally healthy and also present for your family and for your colleagues. What are some things you do in your routine to make sure you are present for everybody? Do you have anything specific you have in your lifestyle that you think kind of makes you stronger as a leader and as a husband and father?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, mind and body, right? Keeping your mind focused, being able to have diversions away from work. And for me, that's family. Being able to take those moments that you get together with, I have 2 kids and a wife of 34 years. So when we get together, we really enjoy each other. We're generally doing something like golfing or mountain biking or skiing or hiking or something like that. But we love to spend time together. So that recharges the battery. I think every day you got to put yourself and your body in a position to perform, and taking care of yourself, exercise, all those balance, getting good sleep, all those things allow you to be present every day. So it's just that combination of keep the fuel going and make sure you just take care of yourself. And that's a challenge. We work hard. We work, we're always connected in our world, right? We're connected almost 24/7. Yeah. So being able to create balance, I think, allows you to make the best decisions and lead at your best self.
I find our attention is such an important part of that's right, and what you're putting your attention toward. Because you could be putting it to your phone if you had your email. Yeah. All right, let's drill into Wendy's a little bit more specifically here. Yeah. Again, you're about 1 year on the job now. Looking back on that, when this opportunity was first made available to you, what was your impression of Wendy's at the time and the opportunity that you could have as CEO?
Yeah, I always admired Wendy's as a brand, as what it delivered, what it stood for. Going back to Dave Thomas, just the focus on freshness, the quality, that level of differentiation, the brand love. I felt like Wendy's had tremendous, brand love, had iconic brands. I love brands like the Dave Single, the Baconator, Frosty, which is my favorite brand. Yes, I'm a heavy consumer of Frosty. But that ability to connect with customers is what excited me. And then when you look at the organization, I love the franchise model. I love our franchisees because they are owners, right? The passion that you put into a business that you own is next level. And that ownership creates performance. It creates great love for the brand. So in a franchise system, you have that. I loved that about it. So great brand, great franchisees. And then when I got introduced to the team, a great team, passionate leaders at Wendy's that deliver every day, that are focused on the right things, high level of values inside the Wendy's company. That all really created a recipe for what I wanted to be a part of.
Sure. We're sitting in a restaurant in Dublin, Ohio. And this room in particular is unique because it's a museum to Wendy's.
That's right.
There are hundreds of Dave Thomases surrounding us right now. Yeah. But I think what that speaks to is the legacy of Dave Thomas and this brand that's been around for generations and what it means to people. Tell me what it's like to be a steward of a brand with such a legacy as Wendy's.
Yeah, I think that's a responsibility, right? Yeah, I think you have to live up to that. And if I think about when Dave started Wendy's in 1969, he started with this idea of being different, right? Delivering a level of quality and freshness. He wanted to stand out for customers. But he also built this company on values that live today. And the combination of your focus on customers, doing it the right way, trying to be different, doing everything you can to be a step above, and then creating a culture that is deep-rooted in values, that's a combination that's timeless. And that's why it lives today. That's why we still talk about it, because it lives with the business.
True. All right, so 1 year. Tell me about the impact you feel like you've already had in that 1 year and some of the initiatives maybe you've brought with you that have impacted the company.
Yeah, one of the first things we did when I got here is we gathered our top leaders in the organization to talk about what we want to go do. You know, a lot of companies create a new vision, there's a new mission. We created a promise, and that promise was a commitment. And that didn't come from me. It came from the leaders in our organization, and it was led by some of our senior leaders. Liliana and Coley pulled together this promise. And what this promise means is I talked a little bit about it, but it shaped our commitment to our customers, fresh, famous food, that we deliver to customers. But it's underpinned by these behaviors, and I talked about a couple. Putting the customer first, making every restaurant the star, operating one best way so that we deliver every time you go to one Wendy's, you've gone to all the Wendy's. And then this principle of ownership, and we call it Own It. Those really, we shaped that. And that was a way for us to create a framework for where we want to take the business. It's a framework for how we think about the menu. It's a framework for how we think about the hospitality that we create in the restaurant. It's a framework for how we support the restaurant. And with that passion, it pushes us as an organization. So when you make a promise, you really have to live up to it, right? You want to live up to it.
Sure.
And so that was a start. And I've loved to see that come to life. Now it's part of every conversation that we have. So that, I think, was an early impact of leveraging the leaders in the organization to really create this ownership of a new promise.
Sure. So many CEOs talk about what I think you're talking about here, which is culture, which is, obviously maybe a word that doesn't mean a whole lot in itself, but what it implies, of course, is investing in your team, in your people.
Yeah.
And I know so many executives who see that as that's kind of the most important thing you got to get right before you can do anything else.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you is you came in here and you said, let's get the team part of this done first and everything can follow. Do you feel like is that work done? Do you feel like there's more work to do in that culture perspective? And do you feel like you've got that building block in place, I guess?
Well, look, I think we've made great progress on our culture. I think great cultures also have this level of healthy dissatisfaction. So you can always get better. You can always get better. That's the competitive part of a culture. Culture eats strategy for breakfast is probably the most overstated phrase. And I think that's true, right? You can have the most refined strategy that's focused, but if you don't have a culture to support that, it won't come to life.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay, so again, thinking about sort of the importance of having somebody like Dave Thomas as the founder of this brand, the scope of what this brand has accomplished so far, what's your vision for Wendy's and what Kirk Tanner is going to do for this company once it's all said and done?
Yeah, I think it's this new era of growth. I think you play off your strengths, the freshest, highest quality menu in the industry, the greatest hospitality when you walk into our restaurants, the digitally enabled, the modernization of the company. That all spurs growth. I think that the next generation of growth, acceleration of our unit growth, both domestically and international. I think we have this big appetite to grow our international business, to go to places that the Wendy's brand is loved, but could be scaled. So there's so much potential for growth, but it really is about giving access to more customers with Wendy's around the world. And that's really the growth driver for us.
Sure. Okay, we're going to move now into what I'm calling the short order round of questioning. Okay. This is rapid fire.
Should I be nervous about this?
Yes.
Okay.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. Okay. This is where we're really going to get to know Kirk Tanner right here.
All right. Here we go.
What's your go-to order at Wendy's?
It's probably a Frosty. I have 4 or 5 of them a week. So when I need that kind of afternoon pickup, I literally come to this restaurant and get a Frosty.
Sure. I've got that tag on my keychain for the the Junior Frosty.
Okay.
So I'm with you on that.
Will Junior be enough? That's the thing.
Well, I give those to my kids. By myself, a little large. Yeah. All right. There have been known to be a lot of Frosties in the freezer at the Oches household. Okay. My kids don't eat it all.
There we go.
But I'm with you. All right. Favorite restaurant besides Wendy's?
Probably a Cameron Mitchell restaurant here in Columbus. I think he's a great restaurateur. I like the Pearl that's over here in Dublin, but I think all of Cameron's restaurants are pretty amazing, and I think we have a great restaurant business here in Columbus. So come to Columbus for our restaurants.
Second that. Okay, what you mentioned this before, but just to reiterate, what was your first job in the restaurant industry?
Yeah, Sardinis. I was 15. I grew up in a working, family. It was important for our parents. My brother and I both had jobs at a very early age, and we both worked in the restaurants. My brother worked at Sbarro's, and I worked at Sardinis, and that was my first experience. And that was really, a job I had through high school.
Sure. Okay, favorite thing to do in your spare time?
Yeah, it's outdoors. We talked a little bit about it, but mountain biking, skiing, spending time with my family is number one.
Sure. Okay. All right. Favorite sport and or team that you root for?
Yeah, I'm a big football fan. The University of Utah is my number one passion, and I'm a Denver Bronco fan. Growing up in Utah and Colorado, that came on at a very early age. I remember the 1977 Super Bowl when the Broncos lost to the Dallas Cowboys 30-10. And those are the memories that you have from your childhood that I carry on today.
You always have hope. So we always have hope.
We always have hope.
So
there's a little more hope now with Denver.
A little bit more hope now.
And we had a tough year. The Utes had a tough year.
Yeah, that's right. They're usually hang in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe next year. Next year's their year. I'm feeling good about that.
All right.
Okay. You probably fly a lot. Imagine you're flying all the time.
Yeah.
All right. If you've got a long flight ahead of you, what do you turn to? A podcast, an album, a book, or a show or a movie?
Kind of a combination of all those things. It's a time to think, too. I'll write things in my journal on a plane. I'll do work. Sometimes I just want a little escape, and I'll read like a Grisham novel. Okay, I follow a few authors that I do that. Podcasts on occasion, but it's a balance of those things. It's a time for me to unwind. It's a quiet space, so I find it very productive time to think, write my thoughts, and then just get a moment for myself.
Okay. When you do stream, if you're going to watch something, what was the last show you binged?
Shrinking on Apple TV. That by far my favorite because it's a feel good. It makes you feel good. Yeah,
I love that show.
Yeah,
the characters are so good. Okay, one resource that you could not live without as a business leader, whether that's a book or a podcast.
I think it's a mentor.
Okay, yeah, it's good.
I think that I like to talk about problems and get feedback. And a mentor, I think, is my greatest resource, or mentors, not just one, but multiple people that have been peers and mentors in the past that you collaborate on ideas and bring those ideas, to life.
Yeah, that's great. All right, one figure, living or dead, that you most admire.
Abe Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is, someone that I've always looked up to, someone that, had a huge moment in history, tough leadership, challenging times, persevered, just, something that, early on, when you're studying history, one of those, that first character I think about in history that shaped our nation.
Yeah. Okay, besides email, the app on your phone.
Wendy's. A Wendy's app.
Okay, besides email and the Wendy's app, the one you spend the most time on.
Oh, probably Wall Street Journal. Understanding what's going on, the climate. It just kind of sets your day. When you're in the environment, you're curious about all things that you can capture in one moment. That's probably it.
Your tech team is probably frightened to hear that you're spending a lot of time on the app. What's wrong with it? What are you going to look for?
It keeps getting better.
It's a good app.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll give you that. What is something about yourself that maybe even your colleagues don't know about you?
Oh, yeah. Probably early on in my life, I was a big endurance athlete, and I don't really look like it, but ran several marathons. I always thought about that challenge, and I really embraced, trying to be, I did a bunch of half Ironmans, marathons, all those things. I did those with my wife. We pushed each other to try to accomplish those kind of goals. And now I don't do those anymore, right? Knees and hips and everything else. I find other ways to exercise, but I was really passionate about that early on in my life.
More running than I do. I'll give you that. Yeah. All right, last one for you.
Yeah.
If you were not the CEO of Wendy's,
yeah,
or not in the food and beverage space at all,
yeah,
what would you be?
I'd probably be that park ranger that we talked about. Oh. I think that being around people, being in the outdoors, that I think would be something I'd be passionate about. I think the other thing is what I talked about earlier about our franchisees is being an entrepreneur is also something that is captivating to me. Being an owner of a business and growing it, doing that with your family, all those kind of things are interesting to me. But right now I'm very excited to be the CEO of Wendy's.
Kirk Tanner, CEO of Wendy's, thanks for joining me for the Signature Series.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thanks, Kirk. Thank you.